Hello friends, I'm Rebecca, this is Body Illumination, this is Bachi, and today we are talking about pelvic floor exercises. So we are going to focus on pelvic floor breathing exercises and stretches. This is part 2 of a series, so if you haven't checked out part 1 or the other series, please check out the links above and below. We are going to do some exercises that might help you postnatal, men or women, with any type of pelvic floor dysfunction. So in this part 2 video, we're diving in a little bit deeper. I will start with a quick introduction, and then I'll review the props that you should have handy. And then we'll go through diaphragmatic breathing, different ways to identify and activate the pelvic floor. Then I'll touch upon the differences with Kegels. Again, I'm not going to get too much into all of the anatomy because this could be a week-long workshop and we are condensing it into 30 minutes of your life. We'll go back into that diaphragmatic breathing, but with pelvic floor activation. We'll do breathing with pelvic floor ladders and quick breaths with pelvic floor activation. I will also touch upon Mula Bandha, and then we'll get into exercises and stretches. This is a nice part for you to just relax. So if you want to watch this video and then revisit any parts of this, like the breathing, the exercises, and the stretches, then feel free to just fast forward through any of the other chapters so that you can get right into that. The pelvic floor anatomy is really fascinating. That said, it can be pretty complex when you have some type of dysfunction. Now, exercises and stretching and proper breathing can help, but you should check with your physician, especially if you are pregnant. There are lots of times I've had people come up to me and say, can I do this? And I always say it really depends on your OB, because some OBs are very open to all forms of exercises. Some have limitations. So you want to double check with them to make sure that you're doing what you feel is right and what you feel is right, okay? So today what I'd like you to do is you're going to have your mat so that you're comfortable, but I also want you to have some type of rolled up mat, or you could even use paper towels, a roll of paper towels for this. And I'm using an eye pillow. You can use any form of beanbag if you have little kids, or anything squishy like this and long, okay? And then I'm using a block, and I'm also using a strap. Okay, so let's get started. So you're seated, and you're going to just start here with some movement. We're going to start with breath, and then we're going to move the body a little bit, okay? So just chill out if you can. Take a moment, inhale, and exhale. Again, inhale, and exhale. Now, take your hands like this, so you create two L's facing each other. Take your thumbs on the back side and your index finger on the front side. And you're going to breathe nice and wide across the rib cage, okay? And then exhale. So we're working on some deep diaphragmatic breathing. And don't change anything. Just notice if you're breathing really high into the chest, and you feel your shoulders lifting, and just be aware of that. I want you to find more stillness through this region and the breath through this region, okay? The posterior lateral breath. Take your thumb and your index finger again and breathe. Exhale. See if you can inhale through your nose. And then as you exhale, lengthen it out. Okay, now if there's a lot of movement in the chest and the shoulders, I want you to try to minimize that movement, because it's really important that we don't try to move all this extraneous movement up through here, because not only is it not necessary, but it cues us that we might be in fight or flight mode, right? That we're under attack and we're breathing shallow because we have to move very quickly and rapidly. We don't have to do that in our lives, right? So we want to start to shift so that we balance our hormones. Inhale wide. Exhale slowly through the mouth. Lots of feedback I get when I'm working with someone and I tell them to engage their pelvic floor is they don't know what is going on down there. The pelvic diaphragm, or the pelvic floor, the diaphragm, the transverse abdominis, and the deep stabilizers of the spine are all connected neurologically. If you put your finger on your belly button and activate your pelvic floor, you should feel your belly button move even subtly inward. Another way to activate the pelvic floor is to let out a deep cough or a laugh, and you might feel some movement down there. So a Kegel or a Kegel exercise, we often say, okay, stop the flow of urine. But we want to activate the whole pelvic floor. So that's really important, that we're working the entire pelvic floor. And lots of times when I say think about your sits bones moving together, that will help you engage some of the pelvic floor muscles. It's a nice mental cue, okay? So you're gonna start with the mat like this. You're gonna thread it through your legs and sit on it so that when you sit on it, right, you can feel those bones, your sits bones that I refer to, your ischial tuberosities, and you want to just move side to side just to create some body awareness. Okay? Lots of times when I'm working with clients and I refer to these bones, they're not really sure what I mean. So just to get some awareness, okay, you feel those bones. You should feel them on both sides of the mat. Then you're going to take the mat and move it this way. Okay. You're going to sit on the mat. Now, if this is tight in your hips, then you can also sit on the block. Okay. So I want your hips just a little bit lifted, and then grab that eye pillow, put it between your butt cheeks. Okay. So we're just creating some pelvic floor awareness. And keep in mind, when you work your pelvic floor, I can't see you doing it really. Because the pelvic floor is inside of you, okay? So when I cue you or someone cues you, that's why lots of times people say you can do these exercises when you're waiting for the bus, when you're in your kitchen and moving around, because no one's really going to see what you're doing, okay? Now, the diaphragm is very much related to the pelvic diaphragm or your pelvic floor. So when you exhale, I want you to think about your pelvic floor lifting right at the bottom of that exhale, okay? So the pelvic floor is like a figure 8, and for women, and for men it's very similar in shape, like an oval shape. So you want to stretch it for the front part of the pelvic floor and the back part. So I want you to think about the musculature in the front, your urethra, and then in the back, in the anus, and then also your sex organs. You're going to lift everything up. So first start like you're stopping the flow of urine, just imagine that. And then in the back, you're stopping the flow of gas or a toot, and you're going to pull up through there. And then you want to lift your sex organs up too, so lift up through the middle. So we're going to do everything at the same time now. So the perineum lifts, the pelvic floor is lifting, everything's activated, and then release it down. Now we're going to add on to this, okay? So I want you to inhale wide. As you exhale, you're going to lift, and then lift like you're climbing a ladder, okay? So do that again. Exhale, lift, 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 and then release. Inhale wide. Exhale, lift, lift, and release. Let's go up again to the third floor, okay? So the third rung of your ladder, okay? Inhale wide. Exhale, lift, 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 and release it down. Okay, we're gonna try one more level of your ladder, okay? So inhale wide. Exhale, lift, 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 and release it down. Okay, you're gonna sit on those sits bones. Take your hands here, inhale. Exhale, tilt your sits bones under and pull up on the pelvic floor into a posterior pelvic tilt. Inhale, center. Do that again, inhale. Exhale. Inhale, lift. Exhale, posterior pelvic tilt. Tilt your sits bones under. Now we're going to add on to this, okay? So you're going to go through into your exhale, posterior pelvic tilt. Tilt the bowl of your pelvis. Now you're going to come forward as you inhale into a little back bend. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Pelvic floor lifts. Exhale, release. Little back bend. Exhale. Inhale. Now come back to center. Sit up nice and tall. Hold here. Now we're going to do quick breaths, activating the pelvic floor on the exhalation. So inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. A little quicker. So it almost feels like a pranayama exercise. So if you've ever seen me do Kapalabhati breathing, fire breath, skull shining breath, your abdomen, that pumping of your abdomen, those are very effective because you're using that diaphragm muscles, your abdominal muscles, and also your pelvic floor. In yoga, we've referred to the pelvic floor as your Mula Bandha because it's energy. It helps. It's a lot to use in yoga to keep that energy flowing inside of you instead of losing it. And it also makes sense because if the pelvic floor is not open, if it's not flexible, if it's not strong, then you can lose your energy. You can also lose your organs. And that's where we have some incontinence issues and prolapse issues. Okay? So experiment with practicing both the pelvic floor ladders and the quick breaths throughout your day. So it's the breathing with the pelvic floor activation. Practice at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And you can climb that pelvic floor ladder, or you can do the sharp, quick ones on your own. What I would recommend is you start a daily practice and try to do it throughout the day. So you can do these little reps seated. You can do them when you're standing, which is also very effective. You can do them when you're exercising, which come onto our hands and knees. Our little props, put them aside. Let's do a nice, easy cat and cow, okay? Now, what you're going to start with is taking those hands under the shoulders, knees under your hips, and then inhale here. Exhale, empty, tuck the tail. Now move into a little back bend into your cow as you inhale. Exhale, empty, lift the pelvic floor. Inhale, come into your back bend. Now as you exhale, pull your chest up, up, up. Pull the pelvic floor up, 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 up. Everything moving upward, stretching. And then inhale. And release. Shake. Stretch all the way back into a child's pose. Okay, now here in the child's pose, I want you to try the same thing. So I'm going to cue you. I want you to stay in your child's pose, relaxed with your head down. And then inhale. Breathe wide through the ribs. So now you get the feedback. Your ribs are on your legs. Breathe wide. As you exhale, pull the pelvic floor up. Inhale wide. Exhale, pull the pelvic floor up. Inhale wide. Exhale, pull the pelvic floor up. Again, inhale wide. Exhale, pull the pelvic floor up. Okay, now you're gonna crisscross your legs underneath you. Come onto your back side. So for this part, you need your strap and you need your bean bag. You're gonna stretch that bean bag underneath your lower back. And if you have a rolled up little towel, that works very effectively also. You're gonna take your strap or your belt on your legs. And then from here, we're gonna move on, activating that pelvic floor again. So you're gonna breathe wide into the rib cage and the diaphragm, the front side and the back side, okay? Inhale, exhale, and then I want you to lengthen the lower back towards that bean bag or towel, and then pull up on the pelvic floor at the same time. Inhale nice and big through the rib cage. Exhale, push your lower back in towards the earth, pull up on the pelvic floor. Do that again. Inhale nice and wide. Exhale, push your back into that bean bag and pull up on the pelvic floor. Inhale wide. Push your back towards the earth. Feel the feedback of the bean bag. Pull up on the pelvic floor. Okay, now adding on to this, you're going to spread your feet nice and wide. And on the exhalation, you're going to press into the outside edges of your feet like you're trying to stretch your mat across the room. Okay, so let's start with the breath. Inhale wide. Inhale, expand. Exhale, pull up on the pelvic floor. Push the lower back and then push the feet away from each other. And release. Very subtle, very effective. We're incorporating all different abdominal muscles, okay? So again, inhale, big breath. Exhale, pull up on the pelvic floor. Press the legs away from each other. Lower back is lengthening. And release. Let's do the same thing, but your legs are going to come up off the floor, okay? So the feet are moving away. Imagine that they're on a wall and they're going to move away from each other. So again, inhale. As you exhale, lengthen the lower back towards the floor. Pull up on the pelvic floor. Feet move away from each other. And release. Again, inhale. Exhale. Pelvic floor lifts. Lower back lengthens. Feet move away from each other. And release. Do that again. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And release. Okay. And then bring the soles of your feet together. Splay your knees open. If this feels uncomfortable, you can take some pillows or blocks underneath your legs to support them. So we're going to work that same breath that we just did. You're going to inhale nice and wide. And then exhale, lift the pelvic floor. 1, 2, 3, 4. And release it. Now as I count, if you can continue lifting upward towards your head, that's great. If you can't, do what you can, okay? Let's do it again. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, now adding on to this, you're going to inhale wide. Exhale. Bring the legs towards each other. Inhale wide. Exhale, bring them in. Lift the pelvic floor. Inhale wide. Soften and relax your pelvic floor. Exhale. Lift the pelvic floor. Again, inhale wide. Exhale, lift the pelvic floor. Up, 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 and up. Good. Now, if you have that little beanbag, take it underneath your lower back. Now, this should be really subtle, okay? So what I want you to do is when you exhale, you're going to push your lower back into that beanbag, okay? So take an inhale to start, okay? Inhale here. And then exhale. Legs move in towards each other. Lower back pushes in towards the beanbag and the pelvic floor lifts. Inhale, open and stretch. Exhale, engage the pelvic floor, lifting the pelvic floor, push the lower back in towards the beanbag, legs move towards each other. And inhale, soften, expand. Exhale, legs move in, lower back reaches, pelvic floor lifts. Inhale wide. Again, exhale. Inhale. Keep going. Exhale, lift the pelvic floor, push the lower back into the mat. Exhale, take your hands onto your rib. Breath is wide. Exhale. Inhale, breath opens and expands. Exhale, pelvic floor lifts, lower back presses into that floor. And inhale. All you need now is your block. And from here, you're going to take your block underneath your hips. If you don't want to do any back bending, that's fine. You can do this lying on a bed with one leg hanging off. It's actually very effective. It's much more effective, okay? Otherwise, you're going to come into a little back bend, take your block as high as you feel comfortable, stretch out your left leg, and pull your right leg in towards you. I want you to inhale. Exhale, pull up on that pelvic floor. You should feel a nice stretch through that hip flexor, your psoas, nice and deep in there. Again, inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. And then change sides. You're going to take that right foot down, pull the left leg in towards you, extend the right leg out nice and long, hold the left leg, inhale, exhale, engage the pelvic floor. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. One more time, inhale, exhale. Okay, let's change legs again. Drop. Okay, now we're back down. We're going to do another stretch. You're going to stay here on your back, cross the right leg over your left, pull the left leg in. So it's like pigeon, only on your back. You're going to stay here, inhale, exhale, engage the pelvic floor. Now, as you exhale, this time you're going to circle the hips around. Inhale, center. Exhale, circle. Again, lifting that pelvic floor, okay? Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Now let's change legs. Cross the left leg over. We're going to go towards the left. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. One more time, inhale, exhale. and back center. Uncross the legs. Hold onto the backs of your legs. Rock your hips from side to side. Then press your feet into the floor. We're going to windshield wipe our legs across the mat. Okay, so our final stretch here. It's again activating the pelvic floor while we stretch, so it's a dynamic stretch. Okay, inhale, exhale, activate the pelvic floor, and then drop both legs to the right. Inhale, center, activate the pelvic floor, both legs drop to your left. Inhale, center, exhale, drop both legs to your right. Inhale, center, exhale, drop both legs to the left. Inhale, center. Now a nice passive stretch. Open the legs, breathe here. Take a nice big exhale. Okay, bring the legs in towards each other. Left leg is long, right leg comes in towards your chest. Now, passive stretch here. You're going to hold onto that leg. You're going to turn it out to the side. Hold here, breathe. Just soften. And then change sides. Press the right foot down, bring the left foot in, extend the right leg out. Pull the leg in, turn it out slightly. Come back through to center. Okay, we're going to come back up to a seated position. So come over to your side. So if that worked for you, then come on back for the next part of this series and also integrate these into your day. Okay, so that's your little homework assignment, which should be fun because it will make your life so much better and pain-free. And you should see some improvements in not only alleviating pain, but you should also see a lot of improvements in your life because our pelvic floor helps with our life flow, our life energy, our pranic energy. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day. Namaste, my friends. Check out our morning series. I'll show some links above. And check out our playlist. And remember to subscribe and hit the bell. That's really important. Otherwise, you won't be notified of the next videos. And also subscribe at bodyillumination.com. Check out our newsletter and add Rebecca at bodyillumination.com to your mailbox. And it's Rebecca with a K.